The wild card weekend is bearing down on the Kansas City Chiefs, and they have some help coming. How do they attack a Frozen Dolphins platoon today on Locked On Chiefs?
From the land of the free and the home of the Chiefs, this is the Locked On Chiefs podcast.
Welcome back, friends and neighbors. This is Matt Derrick from ChiefsDigest.com. You always see him on Wednesdays, and we're going to get rolling today because we are brought to you by Jase Medical. They empower you and everyone else to purchase a Jase case, providing you with 5 supplemental antibiotics and 50 infections that can be caught and treated by yourself on your own through Jase Medical with our code Locked On, where you get $20 off your order. Check them out at jasemedical.com. You might need some medicine this weekend as there's a lot coming down and it's going to be cold. We have a ton coming up for you. Thanks for checking us out here on the Locked On Podcast Network. That means your team every day for free on every platform, starting here on YouTube, where you can like and sub and hit the bell here. Hope that you enjoy this. And you can also go out to the Spotify platform, to the thing that is called Apple Podcast. We exist there as well. Pretty much any platform that's free for all, you can have us 5 days a week plus. And you can get on the text line at 816-357-8781. We are here with Matt Derrick, our man on the ground in Kansas City, in the building from ChiefsDigest.com. And we're going to go over what are the X factors in this game that can really set it apart. How do you game plan for the Dolphins the second time around? And most importantly, who's going to be on the field? Because right now, Matt, we have to start there. There's a ton of updates. No more so important in my mind in the fact that magically, when your backup left tackle to be in concussion protocol, your starter is magically better. And Donovan Smith looks like he'll be able to go. Is that confirmed today?
Well, as Andy Reid told us, barring any setbacks, it does look like Donovan Smith will be ready to go on Saturday night. And that had been kind of the plan all along. I mean, he has practiced a little bit the last couple of weeks, testing that the neck injury and the stinger that he had. When he first started coming back, he was still having a little bit of tingling, so that's why they shut him down. He did work a little bit last week, but there was no intention about trying to bring him back for the finale against the Chargers. It was just really as far as just kind of ramping him up and getting him ready to come back this week. They had a lot of younger guys that they wanted to get ready a week ago, so that was kind of the game plan. So now, with Wanye out in the concussion protocol, the ramp up is accelerated. But right now, barring a setback, I would fully expect Donovan Smith to start at left tackle. That will leave Jawan Taylor back at the right side. If Wanye is not cleared, Lucas Niang will be your swing tackle, and we'll see if the Chiefs make any other moves. I mean, they haven't, to my knowledge yet, at least not today, brought back Prince Tega Wanongo, who's obviously eligible to come back from injured reserve at some point, but he hasn't been activated to return or designated to return from IR yet. But I am told that he is pretty close to being able to come back. So that's possibly an option, but I'm not sure it'll be an option for this week.
Okay, well, that's good. They'll have some reinforcements coming next week as well. But it looks like one guy who is ready to come back and has been healing up pretty well is Sky Moore. I was anticipating that would be an option. Obviously, I don't think they'll activate till later in the week, but looks like he's able and on the track to be somebody who can participate and contribute to this wild card game. Do you see that happening right now, or is it still kind of up in the air?
Still kind of up in the air. We'll see. I mean, I don't, at least as of when we're talking, they hadn't activated him yet and designated him to return from injured reserve. So he is, but Andy Reid said he is making progress. So I'd probably be surprised if he was available for this wild card game, but for maybe next week or week after, definitely a possibility.
He's not going to be the only guy. Luckily, you have some inside information about one guy who's not going to be back this week, but next week I'm hoping is still the magic number for Jerick McKinnon. What do you know that we don't know?
Yeah, I'm going to have to probably pour some cold water on that hope. Jerick McKinnon, he was back in the locker room on Tuesday. It was the first time that he's been back there. But the reason he's been gone, because on January 2nd, he had surgery on that core muscle injury with Dr. William Myers in Philadelphia, who's the renowned specialist for those core muscle injuries. Blake Bell had his worked on last year. It wasn't just the sports hernia that he had. He also had a pelvic fracture as well that was repaired during that surgery. So he's still on crutches right now. So I can't imagine that. The Chiefs have not put out any word yet. And typically, for these type of injuries, even without the fracture, you'd expect 6 to 8 weeks of recovery, which would really put even the most optimistic time frame for Super Bowl return would be kind of tight. So I wouldn't expect him back this season, but the Chiefs have not officially put that word out yet.
Okay, well, that dashes my hopes, but that's okay. Folks, you can get all the information at chiefsdigest.com, where Matt puts all of his work from locker room, from the organization. Everything you need to know is over there. But tell me there's a ray of hope for my guy in the backfield on the other side of the ball. Brian Cook, no update seriously yet, right? But not ruled out as well, correct?
I think from Andy Reid's words today, he said it would probably be a tough return right now. And he didn't speak in depth on it. So, and the fact that he wasn't designated to return today, I think would probably close the book on him playing this week. But hard to parse Andy's statement. And, it's hard to see if he was just closing the book on him returning at some point during this postseason or just this week. I think, just to be on the conservative side, I think you'd take his words as just meaning this week. And so, yeah, I can't imagine that Brian Cook will be a factor in the wild card game, but cross your fingers that maybe if the Chiefs advance to the divisional or the AFC championship, still a possibility.
I got them all crossed. So 2 down, 1 up. Okay, well, I'll take it for what it's worth. Any other surprises today from player statuses as they start to get ready for this short week?
Yeah, I think really just the best news of all was just how many guys that looked like they were banged up in Sunday's game were back at practice and doing okay. Especially a couple of guys who left with what, it looked like might have been serious little dings like Shamari Connor and Deion Bush when those injuries at safety kind of started piling up. Both those guys were practicing. Looked like there's no ill effects. Jawan Taylor, who briefly left the game after kind of getting rolled up on a little bit, practicing, and we talked to him in the locker room and didn't seem to be having any ill effects from that one either. So even though it looked pretty grim there for a little bit on Sunday with the Chiefs getting some guys going down and everything, Andy Reid told us after the game he thought that they were pretty healthy, and so far today that proved the case. Only 2 players did not practice on Tuesday, and that was Wanye in the concussion protocol, and Justin Ross with the hamstring. So we'll see what Justin's status will be for this weekend, but we'll get a better read on that probably by Wednesday and Thursday.
Well, hopefully we get more positive updates. It's all steam ahead for the Dolphins. How do they game plan? How do they get into it? We're going there. Message from our pals here on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every single day. So this is what it comes down to. Sports is an escape for you, for me. Obviously, we get wrapped up in it, but you got to be prepared for the rest of your life. And if you want to do that, pharmacies all over the place have some things that you're going to need from time to time. And sometimes it's difficult to get. Flu season is on us. My kids bring home something bacterial every single day. So you got to be prepared. Sometimes it's a little scary out there. But rather than feel helpless, Jase has something for you. The Jase case is a pack of 5 different antibiotics that you can get pre-prescribed, all in a giant list for everything from respiratory infections to sinus, skin infections, all kinds of things, stuff that could happen to you every single day that you might want to be prepared for. You can get it all in one go. Visit JaseMedical.com and complete your physician encounter. They'll run you through with a board-certified physician, check your medications. They'll be dispensed by a licensed pharmacy and sent to you at a fraction of the regular cost. It may never be more important to be prepared for a fall season like it is right now. Go to Jase Medical, that's JASE Medical.com, and check out our offer. You can use our code LOCKEDON and get $20 off of your offer and be prepared for a little bit of peace of mind that you want to get going forward. And as you go forward, you can then get into what the hottest part of this season is right now, the playoff daily fantasy sports. There is no better place than PrizePicks. It's the largest daily fantasy sports platform in North America. It's the easiest and most exciting way to get into the action. They make things simple for you. They give you a number of what the expectation of a given player is going to be, whether it's passing yards for Patrick Mahomes, whether it's receptions for Travis Kelce, whether it's yards on the ground for Isaiah Pacheco. They're going to give it to you all, and you just have to decide whether the actual total is going to be higher or lower than what PrizePicks has decided. So this one in particular is going to be a lot of fun because you never know what that weather is going to do. Where do you think that you go? If you get a player injured, they'll even give you a reboot and take him out of that daily fantasy lineup for you as an expense. Nobody gives you that kind of coverage outside of PrizePicks. You want to get into the action with them. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNFL and use our code LockedOnNFL, and your first deposit will be matched up to $100. So if you put $100 in, you get $100 on top of it to get into daily fantasy sports. It takes a lot of time to do and prep and get all that stuff done. It doesn't take much time on PrizePicks. You can get them in easy and often and get it all done. So check out PrizePicks. That's where you want to go for daily fantasy sports made easy. And as we bring Mac back in, this is my theorem. All the injury stuff that we talked about up front, that's certainly all factors in game planning. But the Chiefs are coming off a unique situation with this particular team in that Tyreek Hill's been burning it up for the Dolphins ever since he left Kansas City, right? And he's been doing that all season long, yet the Chiefs were able to hold him back in their initial meeting in Germany. I think it's no coincidence, by the way, that NFL Films didn't start actually making Hard Knocks until after the first meeting with the Chiefs. So two things. A, that's a pretty good accomplishment for your first meeting with Tyreek Hill in a Dolphins offense that's been hot. Can they repeat that? And B, are they at a disadvantage because they won the first meeting? And does that make it more in favor of the Dolphins the second time around?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not much big on those rematches unless they're close to each other. I mean, had the Dolphins and Bills played again this week, I probably would have taken the loser from last week to win that one. I think that, honestly, even though it was week 10 that these teams met, it was long enough ago that I think enough has changed for both these teams that I just don't think it's going to be a huge factor. I mean, certainly there's things that you can learn from it, and there's things that the Dolphins will absolutely look at the film to figure out how they can do differently to maybe counter the Chiefs defense. They certainly did a few things differently in the second half that helped them, but they're also offensively not the same team that they were at that point. The Dolphins offense is really banged up. They've got little nagging injuries, it seems like, everywhere, and maybe beyond nagging injuries as some guys like Jalen Waddle. Defensively, they're an absolute wreck right now. They might be signing you and me, Ryan, to be pass rushers this weekend. If they're getting Justin Houston and some of the guys that they're bringing in, I mean, they're basically just having to rebuild their entire pass rush this week due to injuries. And hey, Vic Fangio is going to come up with something, that, but the injuries, I think, are a much bigger situation on the Miami side than they are the Kansas City side. So, it's going to be how do both teams, but I think especially the Dolphins, deal with those and kind of game plan around their injuries. I don't think the Chiefs have to that much. I think the game plan, honestly, for the Chiefs is very, very simple. It's hold on to the football and get the football away. I mean, I'll be stunned if the winner of this game loses the turnover battle. I think it's just that simple for these two teams. I mean, we know the Chiefs are that way. They can't turn over the ball. They've got to protect it. They can't make mistakes, and they need their defense to be more opportunistic. The turnover with Trent McDuffie against Tyreek Hill was absolutely critical in the last matchup between these two teams. So I don't see anything different. I mean, I think it's going to be if the Chiefs win this game, it's because they protect the football. They force the Dolphins to make some mistakes. And if the Dolphins win, it's because they turned over Patrick Mahomes and they were able to get some pressure on the Chiefs. And I think that's going to be more difficult for the Dolphins to execute because of all their injuries.
Yeah, I think that's a fair point. And by the way, Mr. Veach, I'm a fullback by trade. So if you're looking for some support, I'm not a pass rusher. But you said something really key, and I think that feeds into really what the whole concept has to be for this team on both sides of the ball, and that is just execute and play as mistake-free as possible. That means penalties. It certainly means turnovers. But I think it harkens back to what we've seen the last couple of weeks. You can throw last week out, I understand, with the backups on the field and all that. But the simplicity in the offense of being more direct, being more vertical in its design, shorter throws, but yet vertically oriented, not trying to stretch to the boundaries as much. Now, maybe Kadarius Toney goes this week. Maybe the aforementioned Sky Moore is back. There are some options there, but I think simplifying the offense seems to be working And against Vic Fangio, who's going to run that 6/9, play some match, and really try to mess with Patrick in terms of where the zones align, rather than knowing that he doesn't have the pass rush to really compete. I think the screen game's been working very well. Those are the three aspects on the offensive side of the ball that I think they have to hammer down and really emphasize. Is there something missing or something you disagree with there?
No, I mean, I think you've absolutely hit it. I mean, even last week with most of the backups playing, I mean, the Chiefs still did kind of what they did in week 17, which was really kind of go back to the basics, go back to the hits, bring out some of their best stuff from the past and work on that and focus on executing what they know, maybe rather than trying to be too outside the box and too innovative and, pushing things too much. This team, for whatever reason, I mean, is having difficulty, with maybe the next level stuff. So at this point, it does. It continues to be a little bit of simplify the game plan and not just making it basic. That's not really it. It's just really creating a place where Mahomes can make quick throws, that it's stuff that the receivers are comfortable with, things that they can implement easily. I mean, to me, it's not necessarily just saying that it's a dumbed down game plan. I think that's too simplistic, but it's really about making sure that you can get your quarterback into a rhythm and then build off of that. And if you can add more elements as the game goes on, great. Because I feel like that this Chiefs team, especially with this defense, the game plan just simply has to be making sure you get out to a fast start and get a lead. Because I think once you give this defense a lead, I don't think it's giving it up. But you just have to get that lead sooner than later. You can't be waiting until the third or fourth quarter to bail yourself out offensively, because the Chiefs just have not done that this year.
Yeah, it's just not there to be had, right? And I think this defense has actually solidified a little bit more since the last time they played this team. On the opposite side of the ball, for me, I think it comes down to the fact Javon Holland missed last week for them. I do think he'll be back this week. I think they have to have him have a go. But on their offensive side of the ball, like you said, they've been hurting. So the question for the Chiefs is, can they just continue to hammer home with the pass rush? You saw what I think was, I want to say it was about a 60-30 split for who was covering Tyreek Hill between L'Jarius Sneed and Trent McDuffie, both who rested last week. I expect that to be the same. And there were a few snaps where they got someone else on him completely, but I don't necessarily expect L'Jarius Sneed to travel with Tyreek this week. You really want to play him, play defense against him as a team, as a unit, right?
Yeah, I mean, and hey, Tyreek does a lot of the same things they did in Kansas City in the sense that he can line up anywhere. So, that's one of the things that the Dolphins can do is they can move him around. And yeah, I mean, they will try to do that. They will try and find a matchup so that he's lining up against a Chamari Connor or a Jalen Watson or Joshua Williams, someone else who's in there, rather than Snead or McDuffie. I mean, typically the Chiefs defense is pretty simple. I mean, if the big receiver, the number one receiver for the other team lines out upside, it's L'Jarius Sneed's on him. If they kick inside, usually it's McDuffie. Hill would be absolutely no exception. I mean, yeah, it's not going to be a true travel for Snead. I mean, they would do it the same way. But once again, I mean, the Dolphins are going to try and find those mismatches. They're going to try and find ways to get Hill elsewhere. And if Waddle is back this week, that's just another weapon for them to be concerned about. Really, the one difference in this Dolphins offense from the last time that the Chiefs faced them that I would worry about is Devon Achane, because they didn't face him the last time. And that's a guy who's, I think, speed and power can definitely surprise you. And that's what you can't afford. Because we saw what Josh Jacobs did, and this was a team that's familiar with Josh Jacobs. I mean, you don't want A-Chain to get a head full of steam because he can break one off. And that's what this defense, its one susceptibility has been, is that, hey, they have given up some big chunk run plays. Can't do that against the Dolphins. And I mean, that's to me, if I'm Miami, I'm going to be looking to see if they can get A-Chain's the ball in space and see if he can make something happen.
We're going to talk X factors coming up next after the break, and I think we might be able to squeeze him into that list. I am pretty certain. Folks, we'll be right back, but I want to give you a message from our folks, and make sure you check out the rest of the Locked On Podcast Network, including the Locked On Sports Today feed. It's 24/7. You can get all the sports information you're looking for. This show is sponsored by BetterHelp. And whether you're just trying to make a New Year's resolution or you're trying to lock down where you're going in 2024, therapy helps you focus on your strengths, fix some of your weaknesses, and really try to stick to what you're trying to get to resolution-wise. Always a time of year where you could use a little bit of help. And if you're thinking about starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online. It's convenient, it's flexible, and it's adaptable to your schedule and fit your life. All you have to do is fill out a brief questionnaire, and you're going to get matched with a licensed therapist. You can switch them at any time and find the right person for you at no additional charge if that's what you're looking for. You can get into what you need and help yourself be your best self by getting with BetterHelp. You can celebrate the progress you've already made and start making more right now. Visit betterhelp.com/lockedon, and you're going to get 10% off of your first month. That's betterhelp.com/lockedon. Give it a shot and see what you think. So I wanted to get to X factors here at this point in the game, but folks, thanks for being with us on the Locked On Podcast Network. Make sure you check out Chiefs Digest both here on the YouTube platform and ChiefsDigest.com where Matt's information is. And if you want a little bit more of the insider info, get on our text line. That's 816-357-8781. X factors are always my favorite thing, because to see a player take his performance outside of a normal realm to really raise it to an X factor, it's something Tyreek Hill does all the time. You can't expect that, even with the season that he's had, but it's always the thing that sets a game apart for me. And so I think obviously Hill is one of them. I don't even know if we need to touch on that. But for me, I want to know who your X factor is on the Chiefs offense right now. Who do you think can step out of what the norm has been and raise their level against this Dolphins defense?
Well, at the chance of raising some hackles and making people think that I've lost my mind, I mean, if there was a surprise player of the game that we're giving a game ball to on Saturday night after a Chiefs win on the offensive side, I'm going to take Marquez Valdes-Scantling.
Wow.
You know, that's the player that I think that no one is watching right now. I think it's the guy that's, you know, it's not even under the microscope. I think that, you know, obviously fans have kind of abandoned Marquez. The Chiefs have not. He is still an important part of this team. And all it takes is one big play. The Chiefs will try to push the ball downfield at times against this Dolphins defense. They feel like they can set things up. It's not going to be a constant thing, but they do want to try and move the ball in chunks. They do think that some big plays would be important for them. They're going to take some shots. And, you know, who are you going to go to? I mean, Marquez has been a target of those deep balls in the past. And even though they haven't connected on him, I don't get the sense that the Chiefs have given up on him. I mean, it could be anybody. I mean, you know, when we're talking about, you know, being a star of the game, and we're not talking about Mahomes or Kelsey being the big stars. I wouldn't even say Pacheco would surprise you. I mean, if he was, but one of those receivers stepping up and having an 80-yard day, I mean, Justin Watson could do it. Rashee Rice, I almost expected from right now. So I wouldn't consider him an X factor. He's just too important to the game plan. But if you're just talking about the one guy making a play that could make a huge difference in this game, I mean, if Marquez Valdes-Scantling got a deep ball and had a big play against the Dolphins, that would be probably a demoralizing blow to Miami, just given how tough his season has been. But I think he's capable of it.
I like where your head's at, especially because not only have the fans abandoned MVS, the rest of the league has seen his performance on film. So I don't think he's going to garner the attention he may have in week 10. So let's hope that Javon Holland, the rest of the defensive backfield, does that very thing, because it's Jalen Ramsey that's one of the X factors for me. And taking that away is a challenge. And one of the things that I think you can get Ramsey on is that kind of mixed coverage that they're going to want to run because they want to keep Patrick guessing in the deep zones. So for me, the guy I was going to mention against Ramsey is probably going to be Mecole Hardman. They've done a good job trying to get him back in the action. And we know that Mecole's been Mecole so far, but he will have some big plays on the positive side. I think he might be a guy that can subtract the negatives this week against a defense that also isn't necessarily looking for him. Do you think that's out of the realm of possibility?
No, I don't think it is. And I think it absolutely fits in a little bit with the Chiefs' thinking, because he played a lot against the Chargers this past weekend. And, you know, when asked about it, you know, on Tuesday, Andy Reid discussed the fact that, you know, yeah, he thought that Mecole needed to work, but Mecole also thought he needed to work. It was just a matter of, you know, needing to get, you know, kind of back into the groove and everything and getting in the flow of things. And I think you saw that Mecole did need that, because he had for some of the highlight highlight reel plays that McColl made, he had some rough snaps too, but he played 58 snaps. That's a lot for a receiver. It was every single offensive play that the Chiefs ran. And I do. I mean, considering just his infrequent usage at times this season, both with the Jets and then coming to KC and getting the injury, I think there's a lot of rust that McColl needed to knock off. And like I said, even though he had a couple of plays that I think he would like to have back, I think there's no doubt his usage against the Chargers was an indication that the Chiefs plan on using him a significant amount in the postseason. And, it doesn't mean he's going to be an every down player. It doesn't mean that's the role he's going to be in. But I do think that they have some plans for him. I mean, I think they've got plans for everybody in that receiver group in some way to work them in. And as Andy would like to say, get them doing the things that they're good at.
Yeah, let's focus on the positives. Do what you can be explosive at. I'm into that. Speaking of being explosive, my last X factor is on the Dolphins side. And he's a guy that's been coming on of late. Luckily, the Chiefs have maybe the strength of their offense that are going to be the ones trying to take care of him. Christian Wilkins is an explosive player. He's a guy that can rush gaps. He can bull you. He can do a little bit of everything. And he's been actually increasing his performance the last few weeks, especially as their games have been tight and meaningful. He's actually a guy that on the free agent scenario, if Chris Jones is not in this roster next year, that I'd like to see in Kansas City. But you're going to see him against Trey Smith and Creed Humphrey. Probably not a lot against Joe Thuney, but that has me feeling pretty good. If he were to get A-gap pressure, say, I do feel that because of the outside lack of edge rush, Patrick should be able to sidestep and still deliver the ball. But he is an X factor for me. How scared should they be of him?
I mean, I think you have to, and if for no other reason, I mean, that is the playmaker right now on the Dolphins defensive front that you have to be worried about. He's really the only one. I mean, at the risk that the Chiefs may have with, having maybe a somewhat rusty Donovan Smith coming back and a Jawan Taylor, who's had some up and down moments on the right side, and you've got injuries at the tackle situations. I mean, you're probably going to have to trust those guys in some one-on-one matchups anyway, because the Dolphins edge rushers are just so banged up. I mean, if you're going up against a guy off the street like Bruce Irvin or Justin Houston, I mean, you're going to have to worry, you're going to have to beat those guys one-on-one. You can't double team those guys. You can't do that when they've got a force inside like Wilkins. So, I mean, even though that's the strength of the Chiefs offensive line, I mean, I think you can afford to shade protection in his direction to make sure that he doesn't beat you, because if those guys on the outside are winning one-on-one matchups, the Chiefs are in trouble. I mean, that's just flat out. I mean, you have to take advantage of where the Dolphins are weak. And if that means that you can now double team inside and have a little bit less protection on the outside, you have to do that. But it also means those guys need to step up. So I'm with you there. And I mean, we'll probably have to talk about the other X factor in this game too, which is going to be the weather. I mean, the Dolphins are not going to be used to this, but as Andy Reid said, I mean, the weather can be an advantage, but you can't let it overpower, what you're thinking. You can't just assume that the Dolphins are going to walk off the bus and just get punched in the gut by the weather. You got to make them pay. And that's where I think that, the Chiefs just have to make sure that they come out physical in this game, because in that weather, as cold as it is going to be, if you can make the Dolphins miserable by hitting them and being physical with them, and especially that offense, that's where I think you can gain the advantage.
Yeah, I completely agree. Use what you have to your advantage. The ground's hard when it's cold. Let's get them on it as much as possible. I think that's the way forward. Now, I don't know if you're ready. It's a short week, but you want to give us what you think is going to happen?
I mean, I kind of see a similar game to unfolding to the last one that these two teams played. I mean, I think they're both kind of heading in that direction. I don't see either one of these teams really putting up a big offensive display. I mean, I think there's going to be a lot of field goals in this one. It's going to be a battle of field position, a battle for turnovers. So I think the point spread's about right. I'm going with the Chiefs 23-20.
I like it. An odd one, too. I like the way that comes off the top of your tongue. Okay. You're going to have my prediction on Friday along with Chris Clark's, and tomorrow we're talking with Kyle Krabs down in Miami to get the inside scoop about what's going on with that team, who might be viable and who isn't. Matt, thanks for all of your time and giving us the insight that only you can.
Oh, always a pleasure, Ryan. Great talking to you again.
Folks, you guys have a great day. We'll be back tomorrow. Make sure you like, sub, and hit that bell here on YouTube, and get subbed on Spotify as well as Apple. Thanks.